if you could start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got started and how you got into the arts.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Corinne Yancone. I am 27 years old. I got started in art. I feel like I would always consider myself a creative person. Ever since I was younger, I was always that kid, like creating at the art table for hours and hours. So, that was me. And then my whole life, like I grew up dancing and just like painting. I loved it and never actually considered it an art career until my art teacher in high school recommended that I go to Rochester Institute of Technology to study illustration. And I never thought that that was, like a path that was okay to do because you always have that reoccurring, thing in your head that says like artists don't make money. So once I realized that it was an option, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going for it. So I went to Rochester Institute of Technology, got my BFA in illustration. And from there, I started my own business like junior year of college and got my word out through got my name out through doing art shows and things like that. I started my own website out of college, and then social media became prevalent for me that at that time, like I just realized that I needed to up my game and start putting my work on social media. And it kind of just took off from there. It's been slow and steady. It's definitely hasn't been an easy journey just because I feel like it's that learning curve of growing your business and like just trying to market. Marketing as an entrepreneur has probably been the hardest part for me. But once you realize that like you are your brand and you're comfortable with yourself, like marketing is so fun. So
So
yeah,
true.
I mean, yeah, that is like the baseline of like how I got into art, but yeah.
I love that. Okay, let's focus really quick on the beginning. Like, what was the tipping point? And you said you did art shows, and I'm really interested in that because I've never really done a whole lot of art shows. And so
Yeah.
just, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, what I realized was that when I was doing the art shows, I was kind of trying to fit in a niche that wasn't meant for me. So it was more of like I was creating like smaller paintings just so that and creating at a value that I thought I should have been creating at rather than going into fine art. So I was just creating like little things and making prints. And I found that like my prints that sold for like $20 were like the perfect price for people to buy at. But I really wanted to create like big original paintings because that was kind of where my heart was at. But it was more of like at smaller festivals locally in Rochester that I would participate in. And then I actually met my mentor, Eric Waugh, at one of the art shows that I was at. So I was creating these original paintings that I knew that I couldn't sell for I didn't want to sell like big paintings for just like $50. Like that didn't feel right to me because you invest so much in your just learning like in learning how to paint. So I was selling my original paintings for like $1,000 at these art shows and they were not selling. Like it was just, again, that was not my crowd that I needed to be in. So Eric came up to me and he's an artist from Montreal. He does live paintings and a lot of like commercial art for a living. If you need to look him up, like you for sure need to because his work
I
is really
will.
cool and graphic. But he created in a style that I wasn't used to. And I remember him coming up to me saying, he's like, oh, did you like sell this painting that said literally like $1,000 on it? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, wow. And I'm like, yeah, I just felt like kind of like, that like when you're first starting out, you're a little bit embarrassed and like scared about pricing and all that. But we stayed connected and he helped give me opportunities in the art world. And he gave me an opportunity in 2017 to go on a cruise and paint live for audiences. And in order to train me for that, like we did everything mostly over the phone. But he encouraged me to go like paint at bars and restaurants and just go out of my comfort zone and paint live for people, which was like, I was kind of stubborn at the time. I'm like, do I really have to do this? But I'm so glad that I did it because pushing your comfort zone is kind of where it's at. Yeah. So once I did that for a month, I painted all over Europe. I painted landscapes of the different places that we traveled. It was
Oh my
the
gosh, that's so
craziest
cool.
thing ever. Yeah, it was really cool. But I knew that if I did that, it would totally catapult my drive as an artist, and it totally did. So once I came home from that opportunity in Rochester, I started doing live paintings for weddings and events, and yeah, it's just crazy.
It sounds like a really fun journey to where you
Yeah.
are now. Wow.
Definitely. Yeah,
And
there's
now
been a
you,
lot of things that I've done that like just
yeah.
trying to find my niche, and now here I am.
Now, yeah, well, it's so inspiring because a lot of artists, especially in the beginning, they're so stuck on the niche thing. They want to find their niche so bad, and
Yeah.
so just to talk to somebody like you tried, a bunch of different things, I assume, to find
Yes.
that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm working in acrylic painting in acrylic right now, but I coming out of art school, I worked in like watercolor, inks, pencils, mixed media. Like I tried all of the things. And once Eric, started talking to me about impressionism and acrylics and all of that, I had worked in it. I actually did a lot of liquid what is it? It's like liquid acrylics, like fluid acrylics, that was it. So I used to work in that, and once I realized like chunky paintings were like my thing, I was like, oh wow, this is super fun, and I got like a great reaction from my audience, and yeah, it just kind of kickstarted all of my florals. So
Oh, so fun.
yeah.
I love florals, and I love just seeing your ones behind you. Like, oh, you have one that's
Thanks.
half finished, right? That one, or is it?
Actually, it's intentional. So this
Okay,
is,
I just.
yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
Uh,
It's a part of my infinite collection. So when I did this last year, it was like right before COVID came to the U.S. and I was creating this big floral collection, actually to display at my wedding. It was this whole big thing. I'm a COVID bride. Hello. But so yeah, I started creating this collection of paintings, and it started evolving as COVID was basically just, you know, trying to ruin all of our plans. So yeah, there's a really neat story behind all of this work. It's just kind of like the inner work displayed in florals, basically, of last year. So yeah. And you can find all of that on my website at calfcreations.com. I have like just my whole journey of painting, like the idea of my floral collection from start to finish, of being like, thinking it was just going to be this grand display at my wedding. And then as I was finishing the collection, the paintings became more of like a surrendering and an unraveling of like, okay, like this is my path, and painting all of that at the same time was just like the coolest thing I could possibly experience. And then I actually kind of blogged about it on my website. So
oh, fun! Everybody loves a good story like that too.
yeah, yeah, I'm very grateful that that I can execute my feelings through art, and it's one of my many gifts that I'm grateful for. Like whenever I'm in the studio and I can create and just talk to people about my process, it makes me excited.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so you seem like you'd be a good teacher. You teach too, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you
So
figured it out for yourself, so now you're teaching others. Tell us
yes.
about that.
Yeah, so today's like the big day that I'm introducing my course. I haven't really talked about it too much, but the title of it is The Paint Coach. And I basically want to coach people how to paint. I find that a lot of people, and I know that you can relate, when you're working and people are passing by and they always say like, oh, I can't draw a stick figure, or like, I wish I could do that. And I'm here to convince you that you can do it. It's just a discipline that you need to hone and like keep working on. So the Paint Coach is a 5-week mentorship where it's an online course where I have 5 modules full of lessons and demos of honing your creative process, and you'll actually be creating a painting from start to finish while learning techniques that will help you always like create from past the 5 weeks. So
Oh, fun! How can
yes.
people learn more about that?
Yeah, so if you go on my website at calfcreations.com, there is like, you'll smack dab in the middle, there is a button that you could click to sign up for my email list, where you'll get more information about that very soon. So excited.
Awesome. So how much time, and this is kind of a question that I have for like personal reasons too, because I also coach business, so
Yes.
more art and business, and so not as
Hmm.
much painting. So actually we should talk maybe a little bit about maybe putting part of your course in the academy. I'll like purchase it. Well,
Yes.
let's talk more about that because I don't
Yeah,
really
that
teach a
would be
lot
so
of
cool.
yeah, so I don't teach a lot of like painting technique. I'm more of
Hmm.
like the let's make money type. So
Yep.
I'm always wanting to work with artists who love to do what you're doing, basically. But so,
Definitely. I
how
would
much?
love to.
Awesome. How much time do you spend teaching, and then how much time do you spend painting per day? Like, where is that mix up?
Yeah. So painting per day, I'm gonna say like at this moment because I'm still doing, course content and stuff like that, I would say like a few hours a day teaching. For the actual course, it's you'll have like full access to me. So you'll always be able to email me throughout the 5 weeks, and then I'll be doing Facebook Lives where we get that one-on-one time together where I can answer your questions, and we'll be doing art critiques and things like that. But as far as me painting, it really depends on my schedule. So if I'm creating a work of a series of art, it could be like I could just set out a whole day to paint. Like really. So it just depends on my schedule, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate to that. Like most of it is like business. They always say that like business is like 80% of your whole creative entrepreneur life, and it's like 20% painting.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some days where I'll have to do all the business stuff and then I won't even get to paint until like
Yeah.
noon some
I
days.
know. I
And
know.
then
It
Mondays
like
is
breaks
like
my heart. I'm
I
like, I
know.
wish I could paint all day.
Yeah. And then Monday is like the day to like do a lot of the teaching stuff and then the
Yeah.
rest of the days are more painting but with a little mix of kind of everything else.
Yes,
But yeah.
it's literally a mix of everything. I love it.
Awesome. So let's see. Okay, so what else? What other kind of questions do we have on here? What
Um,
other questions do I have in this thing? I actually
I,
lost
I'm
them.
like, I don't have the question in front of me. What else can we talk about?
Thankful for editing. Let's see. Is there anything? Man, I've like have them memorized by now because they're like kind of standard. But
Yeah.
is there anything you want to talk about? Anything kind of like that you've really maybe mastered or like have had a lot of experience with in your art business that other people might benefit from? Like you mentioned the art
Yeah.
shows. I think that's really great.
Yeah, the art show, like, oh my gosh. I haven't I haven't dug back into art shows for a while. I do them mostly like in the summer, and I kind of treat them as like they're just fun for me now. It's less more of like the business, like I need to sell stuff. It's more of like I love getting to interact with people, and for like social media promotion, I love going to locations where people can watch me paint, watch this whole experience, and then, record a time lapse, post it. So when I do my art shows, I mostly do, it's just like for content creation. But I'm finding a lot that if you are going to invest in an art show, make sure that you have a nice like business plan set up prior to that, because I know that some of them can be really expensive. So normally I don't invest in them because I know that that's not my niche. I mean, if it's like 50 to $100, like that's not too bad. But if you're spending
Yeah.
hundreds of dollars to go to these shows, make sure that you have your brand pretty established, I'd say.
Yeah.
That's really good advice because I
Okay, good.
definitely learned that the hard way.
Okay, yeah. So like know what you're gonna pitch them coming into it, and like
Yeah,
have your stuff together. It's not
for
really maybe a
sure.
newbie kind of a thing.
Yeah, they usually do like it's like a juried show. So I mean, if you are going to enter it into a juried show, you need to show photos of your work and things like that. So it's nice to have a theme or a purpose for your work, and just like business cards and stuff, just things like that. And a lot of it too, I feel like a mistake that I've made in my business is when you're first starting out, you think that you need like a lot of stuff. Like if I were to be selling prints, I mean, I tried to sell prints right off the bat, and I bought like hundreds of prints thinking like everyone's gonna love this, but like nobody did.
Ugh. Oh, yeah.
And like they did, like I got good feedback, but like you don't need 100 prints to buy and sell. Like buy things in smaller quantities for sure. Unless you ask your audience, like asking your audience definitely helps a lot. Just kind of knowing who you're talking to and how you can serve your audience best is the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. I have a quick story on that. I remember you saying the 100 prints. I remember back, well, it wasn't doing art, but I made like a calendar. It was like before I was doing art full time. We did a calendar, and I had bought 1,500 of these calendars.
Yeah,
Because you got
I believe it.
Yeah, you got a really good deal, or maybe it was 1,000. I don't know. It was 1,000 something, but you got a really good deal. They were like 10 cents a calendar or something. I was like, yeah, it's a deal. I can't not do it.
Right.
Like we had boxes left that we just couldn't sell.
I agree. I still have boxes left of of my early work. Like that's the funniest part is that I was just so passionate about being a creative entrepreneur that I kind of went all in. Like if you want to be a creative entrepreneur, you have to go all in, but definitely don't buy thousands of prints.
Learning the hard way. Is there another, I was just kind of thinking on this subject, because this is one of the questions on there. Is there anything else you've learned the hard way?
Yes. Yep. I would say saying no to the things that don't serve you, for sure. I feel like I still do this now, and I catch myself like saying yes to things that don't necessarily like align with my brand, where you think like, oh, I'll do this for exposure and things like that. If there are people out there who are going to pay you for being you and doing what you do, so don't offer it for free unless you think that it really aligns with your brand. I'm trying to think of a specific situation, but I frequently catch myself in that situation where I'm like, I don't know, like, oh yes, I can do that. I can do that. I can do all these things, but all of those things really stretch yourself thin, and they're more work for you, and they kind of like chip away at your creative soul. Your creative soul needs to thrive, not like just be stretched too thin.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Just having so many things on the to-do list, I feel like it's never, and anytime anybody asks me to do something, it's like a decent opportunity. I'm like, and then I'm like, they're like, hey, we need this. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, dang.
Yeah, definitely. Like you definitely need to do what's best for your business too. I know that, I love creating collections. Like I haven't created a big collection like this since last year. And that's where my heart feels the best, is when I'm doing artwork that I love, that also resonates with my audience. But commissions are, the best thing for my business right now. And it's so hard to like do what you want to do, but also, oh my gosh, there's just so much.
There is so much.
Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, there is really so much.
Yeah.
There's just so many ways to take it, which is so fun too if you think about it, because like we can do this and that. We're just making it up as we go. Like we're making up these prices. We're making up everything. Like
yeah, you have to do it all. So it's knowing where your time is best spent while you're planning out just like your week or your day. Like really getting in that zone instead of going in a million different directions, which my brain loves to do. Again, I have to reel myself back in almost every day.
Yeah. How do you keep organized? Because I know that like this, what we're talking about, what we both experience, is what a lot of other artists experience too. Yeah. With just like, wanting to go in all these directions and not sure where to go. How's the best way that you keep yourself organized?
I literally keep a calendar. But and it's funny because sometimes I go off track of my calendar, and when I go off track and just kind of like, I get way too confident. Like I know what I'm doing. And then like, realize that my calendar isn't like, I don't have everything written down that I need. And then I start to get frantic, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, refer back to my calendar. Like that is the groundwork that I need to keep remembering and keep up with. But I'm also doing this new thing where I have my goals in my studio for each month, like just what I want to do each month. Obviously things change, But if I have everything written out per month, then that's another way for me to kind of step back, look at the framework, and then move forward from there. You know what I mean? Where I can check things off the list and say like, okay, I did this that month. At least you can like look at it and say like, feel accomplished in some way, because I feel like we are doing so much every day, and then you don't keep record of it, and then you look back and say, oh, I don't know if I did enough. But we're doing so much. So much.
We are
It's
doing
mind
so
blowing.
much. It's a lot. Yeah, and just like celebrating your small wins too.
Yes.
We do a little like win Wednesday thing just to like, remind people to celebrate like what you do this week. You probably did something right. You're just
Yep.
thinking about all the other stuff you need to do. Like mine's the same. And yeah, so just celebrating those small wins.
It's true.
And
I
then
know.
doing something else on the to-do list.
Yeah. Speaking of small wins, I mean, this isn't necessarily a small win because it's a massive painting, but I did a reel yesterday of, just getting progress done on one of my commissions. And I felt like after I looked at the reel and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so accomplished, because I'm still trying to get used to reels. But yeah, I felt really good about it. And then I stepped back even more and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just so grateful that I have hands to create. It's the simple things that I'm like, thank you, God, for this. Because without it, I don't know if I would be as happy. Like, this is, you just need creativity to thrive. So
So
I don't
true.
know, man.
So
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Just,
Feels
just
good.
being thankful for the little things, really, and just
Yes.
putting it into perspective. A lot of the times, my friends, if if you're around me, like I'll probably say this a couple times a week. I'll be like, first world problems. Like
Yeah.
this is any problem that you have, like, because like
Yes.
I went over to Africa a couple of years ago and like volunteered there, and just the whole time and coming back, you're just like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just now I just think back to that and I'm like, they would love to have my problem, that I'm too busy or that
Right.
I'm behind on this or whatever.
I know.
Where I can't, it's tough to keep up with the shipping out all of these print orders that we're getting.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a lot of like streamlining all the different things. It's the emails, it's the shipping, it's the making, it's the promoting. I could literally go on forever. Yeah, it's crazy cool.
yeah. So back on the confidence aspect. So I love how you went out
Yeah.
and did a bit of, painting in public. What's the talk going on in your head when you're doing that? And how is it like practice makes perfect kind of a thing? Or like is there any tips you have for painting in public?
That is a fabulous question. So, I'm trying to think like, because my mindset now is definitely different than when I first started. Because when I first started, I was a little bit nervous just to think like, I don't know. At first, I'm like, why do people want to watch me paint? Because for me, it's so normal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, who cares about me painting? And then all of a sudden, like the first time I did it, people, obviously have like this crazy cool reaction because they don't see it every day. I'm like, huh. So then I started to do it, and I started to be known for my live paintings. I'm like, wow, this is like so neat. So that's when I started finding my niche. But as far as like what's going on in my head, it's always nerve-wracking. There's never a time where I don't feel a little bit self-conscious, but doing the thing anyway always, gives me that extra push that I need. Usually locations that I'm not sure of come with a little bit more like anxiety. But if I've painted at a location before and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this, I go in there and know exactly what I'm doing, then that helps with my confidence. Usually if I sketch out the piece just in like on the canvas and have an outline before I paint, I feel much, much better. Being live, you get a lot of distractions of people coming up to you and wanting to just know more about your process, or they have a fun story for you about how they know someone who is an artist. And I continue to work and get distracted by those people, which is totally fine because that's what it's about. It's about communication and just being open with people, but it gets a little distracting. And then sometimes if my painting isn't coming out how I want it to, I have a little bit of a panic, and then I continue to push forward. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you can relate to that too. It's
Yeah.
just, every painting has an ugly stage, and just remembering that the ugly stage is okay and it's a part of the process, and then you keep moving. Sometimes I wait till it dries. You just have to remember to take a step back, or else I kind of break down a little bit inside. You can never tell because I'm always happy. But yeah, so I'm much more confident now too when I go to weddings. Like I know the couple that I'll be painting for. I get there, I have an outline, like the room is right in front of me, so I'll be able to sketch it out on my page, or on my canvas. Yeah, it's good. I'm much more confident now than I was when I first started. But definitely getting out of your comfort zone I would highly recommend it. Any opportunity that you get to move out of your comfort zone is going to help you grow as an artist. And I can't express how important that is enough, because it's so good, and it's what's going to help you get better, more confident, and just be able to do what we're doing right now is hard. So it's, again, like just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is what you need to do.
Yeah, I have this weird like mental talk in my head where I know my next step that I need to get over, and I always think like if I don't force myself to do it, then I'm not going to grow anymore in my art career. Like I'm like, if I do this thing, if I get used to, talking on video, then it's going to help me grow. But if I don't do that, I'm going to stay at this level. And so I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. But I literally think like, okay, the universe or whatever is not going to let you grow anymore if you don't do this. And really it's cause and effect too. Like, doing the things helps the growth.
Yes, I totally agree. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do that with my paintings too. Like if there's, the parts of your painting that are really, like they require some guts, I guess. Yeah. Or like if I'm doing that live, it usually helps if I'm feeling good about it, where I'm like, oh, I'll just, like put a huge like splash of whatever through this painting, and everyone from afar is like, oh no, and I'm like, oh, this is where I thrive, because like I don't know, it just makes you feel so empowered when you're in front of an audience, and I don't know, you can just like kind of control the energy of the room. That's why live painting feels so good now.
Oh my God. Yeah. So how long are you usually painting for live painting? How long is it last?
It actually, the more that I've been painting live, the less time it's taken me. So I have different packages depending on the amount of hours that I'm creating for. At first, I had like a 4-hour package, which was like a luxury package. But now I can actually paint for 3 hours or under. So that is kind of fun for me. Yeah. It's like speed painting.
That's so fun. I totally cheat. When I do stuff like that, people are like, can you come live paint? I'm like, okay, but this is how I do it. I'll literally make a print, and I'll just have the print there, and I'll just kind of like be like hand embellishing it, so everybody thinks I did this thing, but nobody saw me start it. And if anybody asks, I'll tell them that, but then the majority of people don't ask.
Right.
And so
oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And then I just have them pay for the print plus like my hour of time that I'm up there before dinner while everybody is just watching.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Totally. So you're saying you sketch it out and you paint it there. I'm like, whoo, I'm sweating for you.
Oh yes, for sure. Like I definitely, the faster that I get paint on the canvas, the more confident that I feel. So yeah, that's it. That's actually a good point. You just like put me in a live painting scenario. Like I have a blank canvas and I'm like, I'm starting right away. Like I don't talk. Like I go. And then usually I have to keep in mind that people are going to come up to me. But yeah, so the more paint that I can get on the canvas, the better my anxiety feels. But yeah, so I actually usually start from a black canvas first.
Ooh.
Yeah, so actually Eric Waugh taught me that trick, because when you are, it actually helps me create faster because you're building value faster rather than starting from a white canvas and putting on, a neutral color or something that's going to give you a base. The black is already the base. So then you're working on top of it instead of building it from the ground up. Does that make sense?
And I'm sure it'll look full already too, because like white is so blank.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So the black actually gives a lot of depth. I have a few paintings on my Instagram that have my process starting from a blank canvas. So yeah, my Instagram is CAF_creations if you want to look that up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of my live painting work, and actually if you look up the hashtag Rochester wedding art, you can look at all of my wedding paintings there too.
Ooh, that's such a good industry to get
Hmm.
into because weddings in general, like they're not really worried about cost as much as normal, and I just think weddings is such a good area. How did you get started with that? So say somebody wants to get started with live painting, how do you suggest they do that?
Live painting for weddings or just live painting in general?
Both.
Okay. I would definitely, before you get into it, I would for sure recommend practicing. So, I just called like local breweries and reached out. It's always good because live paintings are entertainment. So if you do that for free and just say like, hey, this is for my own self benefit. I want to create, like, I don't know, a flower tonight. So I was doing that like on a weekly basis. So I would recommend reaching out to someone local just to get your own practice, figure out your pricing, how, what you think you're worth for a certain amount of time, like an hour, a couple hours, however long it's going to take you to create a work of art. And then I actually did a wedding show to start out. So I just went out on a limb, a whim. I don't know. How does that go? I just took a chance and went to an art show, and that was one of the ones that was like a higher price to like enter into it. So I figured, if my cost for one live painting is higher than what it's going to cost me to do the show, I'm going to go for it. So did that and gave a couple of my packages, sent out like all of these papers with my pricing on it. And I had one couple go for it, and I created actually at a winery for their wedding. And they were just like so sweet. It was like my perfect like first time to like work with a wedding couple. They were so sweet. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And once I did my first one, it was pretty smooth sailing because word got out. So like word of mouth for sure. Once you start live painting, more people want to see it. It's great because it's entertainment for the event, and the couple gets an original keepsake. It's so cool.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so you've just volunteered your first one?
No, my first one, they paid more. They paid me for that.
Okay.
So yeah, 100%. But as far as like getting experience for live painting, I would recommend going like outside and just like doing it in front of like an audience, or going to a bar or a restaurant or something like that, just to build your confidence. You need to have your confidence built up. Like, I don't think that live painting is for the weary. You definitely got to be tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah. So I hope people who are listening to this like just really take that advice because I think this can be a really lucrative business. And I don't really
Yeah.
know hardly anybody who does it in my town. And so I'm
Yeah.
always like, man, this is such a good idea. Somebody just needs to do
It is. It really is. There aren't a lot of people in Rochester doing it either. I think it's more for like the bigger cities.
Yeah.
I've noticed because I've seen so many people on Instagram doing it, but there's not a lot of people in my area or maybe your area. So definitely it's so much fun. I mean, I'm a dancer too, so I love to perform, and for me it just like gives you that adrenaline rush that it gives you the adrenaline rush that I need to feel like I'm performing, okay?
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I have one more question for you, and then we can circle back to your painting class and all of that.
Yeah.
But what is the advice that you would give to the artists who are just starting out and they want to make art their full-time career, but they don't even know where to start? Like, where's a good starting point?
I would say do what makes you like, I would say paint what makes you feel good. If you're painting something that you don't like, or something that just doesn't light you up, don't do it. You definitely need to, there's something to be said about, doing things to make money, like painting to make money, like 100%. But if you don't have a style or something that makes you feel excited while you're creating in the studio, then you need to work on that. So like honing your style is one big thing. And I think you actually talk about that I looked on your website. Do you have something about that? About something about your niche or your style?
we've done like a podcast episode over
Oh,
it, over
nice.
the like choose the thing that people would say it's like so you, you
Yes,
know?
100%. One thing that I learned from my mentor was your painting should reflect your personality. So if you don't feel like your painting is a reflection of you, don't be your artwork. Like you shouldn't be your art, but definitely it should make a statement. And I actually talk about that in my painting course too. We not only go over how to paint, but actually how to paint from the heart. So figuring out your why is really important. And if you want to figure out your why, you need to join my art course. I will be your paint coach, okay?
Awesome. Okay, and yeah, and let's chat a little bit right after this about maybe including part of that in the Artist Academy so they can get like a
Yes.
little taste of it or
Oh my
something.
gosh,
We'll
that would
just
be
see.
so incredible. I'd
Okay.
love that.
Awesome. Okay, well, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for
All
coming on
right.
and talking with me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
And
Thanks
then
for having me.
one more time, what is your website? So if people want to
Yeah,
go join.
it's cafcreations.com.
So
CAF
CAF. Okay.
Creations. Yes. And then my Instagram is CAF_creations.
Awesome. Okay, have a great
Yay.
day. I'll talk to you
Thank
later.
you. You
Bye.
too. Bye bye.